all suspicion in her voice, she says, "You've been here a long time already. Isn't it time you leave?" We can't let those idiots in China dictate our lives. The rate of entrepreneurship among immigrants in these countries is way higher than in Taiwan. The number in Taiwan is less than 1%. What does this mean for Taiwan? It means that
this video is sponsored by SealVax. SealVax is the ultimate food-saving solution. It uses high-quality borosilicate material and an innovative vacuum sealing technology. SealVax offers glass vacuum jars of different sizes and Gailihi vacuum boxes. These are versatile containers that can be used to store different types of food. With SealVax, you are saying goodbye to single use of plastic and greatly contributing to cleaner environment. Not only that, they are designed to make storage beautiful and keep your food fresh longer. They can be stacked in the fridge to save space and can be microwaved. Summer is coming and SealVax glass vacuum jars are perfect for keeping your salad fresh, overnight oats, soup, etc. to make preparation even easier when you are busy living life. Need a refuel with healthier and fresh food? SealVax got you covered. SealVax offers you, the viewers of Welcome to Taiwan, a special 20% discount from April 13th to May 13th. So please go click on the exclusive link in the description below to get your 20% discount.
My name is Elias. I was born in Sweden, but nearly 30 years ago I moved to the US to study there. And eventually I came to Taiwan. That's 24 years ago now. So I've been here for a long time. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. So I started my first business as a teenager, co-founded a couple of companies in the US as a student, and I think I started my first Taiwan business when I think it was maybe the third week in Taiwan, something like that. And in 2002 I set up Inspire, which is I think Taiwan's largest B2B marketing company. So we work for companies like Oracle and eBay and Taiwanese startups like Kdan and BB Tech, Sunny Founder, basically helping them find business customers here in Taiwan. So companies that sell things to companies, right? So they hire us to help them connect themselves with businesses, right? So Oracle, for example, sells software and hardware specifically to companies.
Going back 24 years ago, why do you choose to come to Taiwan?
So I met a Taiwanese lady when I lived in the US, and she lost her visa in the US and she wanted to come back to Taiwan, and I felt like that sounded like an interesting place to go. Actually, I knew nothing about Taiwan. Absolutely nothing. So it was a bit of an experience to pack up my house in the US, sell off everything, and pack 2 suitcases and my dog, and fly over to Taiwan.
If you could recall when you arrive in Taiwan, what strikes you first when you arrive in Taiwan?
So, I mean, my very first experience in Taiwan was interesting because I arrived at the airport. Like I said, I had traveled with my dog, right? So I came to the airport and I have to find my dog. Where's my dog? And I see this sign that says quarantine. So I assume, okay, well, maybe something like that. So I walk up to this counter, and I had studied a few hours of Chinese, okay, but I probably didn't know how to say more than 4 words. So I walked up to this officer, tried to ask him for my dog, and he didn't speak English, and we just could not understand each other. And then I hear from the other side of the arrival hall, I was like, okay, I think I know where my dog is. So I walk over to the other side, find him, bring him back over to the quarantine counter, took him out of the crate, and he proceeded to immediately pee all over the quarantine desk. One would think that at the desk that deals with foreigners arriving with potentially dangerous things, they should maybe speak English.
You started a business the first few weeks you arrived in Taiwan. What prompted you to go into business in Taiwan? I'm
a lifelong entrepreneur, and it was just clear to me that that's the route I wanted to take. I did find myself a job, right? So I had a day job that I earned money from, and then started the company at the same time. Of course, with the idea that eventually the business would be able to support me. I think what drives me for entrepreneurship is really that I like to find problems that needs to be solved, and I really enjoy putting together the people, the resources, the processes, maybe one can say, then provides this value, right? Something that somebody needs and are willing to pay for. I think it's a beautiful thing. Once you have a bunch of people that are somehow waking up in the morning and coming together and together they are creating value, solving problems. It's beautiful. And in 2011 maybe, I was flying back to Sweden. And I was in Bangkok, and I walked into a bookstore there, and I saw this bookshelf, and it has all these books, and it said, How to Start a Business in Thailand. And I'm like, how come we don't have a book like that here in Taiwan? Because all these entrepreneurs that I met kept on asking me the same questions over and over again. So I'm like, okay, somebody should write that book. So when I came back to Taiwan, I gathered a group of interns, and we spent about a year gathering all the information needed. And then I spent another year kind of massaging that into an actual book. And the hardest thing with it was to find the reasons for things, the explanations for things, right? Like, there are many different types of company entities in Taiwan. Well, what's the difference between an 有限公司 and 股份有限公司? I had to have many conversations with government people and CPAs before somebody could actually explain the reasons to have two different types of corporations. And the reason for that is because the government tend to have just kind of laundry lists on their websites, right? It's just answering a question. What kind of entities are there? Oh, there are these 7 or whatever. Mm-hmm. But no explanation, especially as a newcomer to the country, you would get advice that were really bad for you. So, for example, what we need to keep in mind is that your ability to set up a company in Taiwan is completely separate from your right to work in that company. Two completely separate things. Like, somebody who has never been in Taiwan can register a company in Taiwan, mm-hmm. right? But that person would have no right to actually work in their business, right? Mm-hmm. So, in order for the immigrant, the foreigner, to actually work in the business, you have to think about how you're setting it up, how much money you're investing, and how you're doing it, right? And I heard so many stories of people being advised by a CPA setting up the business. Yes, it's simple. And then comes the foreigner and says, okay, well, so now I can work here, right? No, you should have told me that 6 months ago, right? So that's what I'm saying, is that there was a need for explanation and for somebody to kind of connect two parts of the process that, for a CPA or an advisor that, never really had been dealt with an immigration officer and didn't think about it, it was not obvious. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so eventually this turned into this book, How to Start a Business in Taiwan. And it's been, I guess, 11 years since this book was published. And of course, it's a little bit out of date now, but the core parts of it is still valid. I think we sold about 5,000 copies of this book, and we still sell some.
Do you have maybe a website or a store specific, or names of places where people can get this?
For sure. You can go, the easiest is to just search on Google for How to Start a Business in Taiwan book, and then you can find it. But you can also just go directly to startabusinessinTaiwan.tw and buy it there.
Is it only in English?
It is only in English. I've certainly gotten questions a lot for versions in Japanese and Spanish and a few other things. But at the end of the day, most people who come here will be able to speak English, and it's kind of easy to just stick to English.
What are some of the business cultural differences in Taiwan compared to the countries that you've been to?
Some of the things that I encounter in my daily work is You can't walk into a group meeting, for example, and just say, okay, now let's brainstorm to something. Let's think about the solution to something. If I did that back home, people would just be jumping all over themselves to come up with ideas and whatnot, because that's how we've been educated. Here in Taiwan, people are more cautious, especially in front of the boss. My solution over the years has been, okay, I can ask people to think about things, but then it's best if I leave. Like, even though I really would like to be part of that process, if I leave the room, they are more likely to talk, more likely to dare to come up with solutions, because, unfortunately, the Taiwanese education system kind of sets people up to be so afraid of being wrong. They are afraid of, being slapped on the wrist, so to speak, for giving the wrong answer. And even though you try to tell people that there is no wrong answer, not right now. Let's just get all ideas, however good or bad they might end up being, on the whiteboard. That's a hard cultural, educational blockage to get over. Then, of course, as a non-Taiwanese, walking into a bank in Taiwan is really one of the most nerve-wracking, annoying, high blood pressure situations ever. There are all sorts of headaches regarding being a non-Taiwanese here. And you also use the word foreigner. I have, for the last 3 years, categorically started to refuse to use the word foreigner for myself. And the reason why I did that, and the reason why I have switched to immigrant, is because I feel like many of the challenges that we are seeing in Taiwan are coming from an assumption of otherness, that people are just saying, well, he's a foreigner, so of course the rules should be or has to be different, right? Take your ARC or APRC numbering system that, is, in the old version was very different, and the new version is still a little bit different, right? Or the banking here is really hard for immigrants. So, for example, I had a meeting with a bank branch manager a few years ago, and we were talking about all the headaches and why Taiwanese banks get so nervous when, an immigrant walks through the door, right? And he said, well, for example, because you're a foreigner, I can't get the credit report on you. And I said, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, of course not. You're a foreigner, so you're not part of the system. I can't get a credit report on you. And I said, give me half an hour, I'll be back, let me test that assumption, that hypothesis. So I went down to the Joint Credit Center. I just applied for my credit report, took them like 5 minutes, printed it out, and I went back to the bank and I showed him my credit report, right, from Taiwan, saying, this is who I am, this is the kind of money I have, the kind of credit cards, the kind of loans, whatever that I have. Mm-hmm. And he was completely surprised, right? So that means that, let's say, me and somebody who just arrived yesterday walk into his bank at the same time. Mm-hmm. He and all the people in his bank will completely assume that both of us are equally an enigma and therefore equally a risk. Mm-hmm. Right? They would not say to both of us, can I please run a credit report on you? And this is what I mean with an assumption of otherness or alienness, right? So these days I am encouraging all people who have chosen to make Taiwan their home, let's start using the word immigrant. Let's kind of force the Taiwan society to think about the fact that we are not in the same category as Donald Trump, for example, who has never been in Taiwan. Don't put me in the same category as him, ever. Thank you.
He has never been here, so he is the foreigner.
Yes, he is the foreigner.
What advice would you give to other entrepreneurs who wishes to invest in Taiwan when we have this China-Taiwan tension? Is there anything people need to be worried about or fear of investing in Taiwan?
Personally, I don't believe that China will invade. I've just bought myself a nice apartment here in Taipei. I'm investing my money in Taiwan. I don't think that's going to happen. At the same time, don't be stupid. It's always good to have a little bit of, if you can, keep some money in another country just in case. We can't let those idiots in China dictate our lives. I don't think we can. I think we should make the investments that we think are going to be good. We're going to start the companies that are going to provide value. What I am doing is I'm choosing not to buy things from China. I'm choosing not to sell things in China. That's my personal. I'm divesting out of China, so to speak. And you look at Hong Kong. Well, I used to go to Hong Kong a lot. Hong Kong, used to be this fantastic place, but I mean, with the type of laws that have been implemented, now I've made fun enough of Winnie the Pooh on Facebook. I feel, it's probably not safe to go.
Living here this long, have you ever thought of changing your nationality to be a Taiwanese?
Yes, basically two ways of becoming Taiwanese, right? One is to give up your original passport and all of that stuff, which I find to be completely unacceptable because Taiwanese people don't have to give up their Taiwanese passport when they move to other countries. So I refuse to do that. There is a small loophole in the law for people that have contributed extra to the Taiwan country, where you can get citizenship without giving up your original passport. I've been planning for years to apply for that, to see if I could possibly get it. One of the reasons why US and Canada and so on are so successful in attracting talent is because, once you move there, you are on a track towards citizenship, meaning that whatever you are investing in terms of time, money, efforts, or whatever, you can be fairly certain that you'll be able to, reap the rewards of that too, because you'll be able to stay. Before I got my permanent residentship, for 3 years I had to renew my ARC every year. And for 3 years, the lady behind the counter in the immigration department looked at me, and with all suspicion in her voice, she says, "You've been here a long time already. Isn't it time you leave?" And I'm like, do you really think that I should go and fire my employees and just wind everything down and leave? Why should somebody invest all they have into building a new company when there's no easy way for us to really become part of this country? Mm-hmm. So, yes, I do want to apply for that citizenship and see if I can get it. I would love to be able to vote in this country. And if I do, if I do get it, I really want to go from bank to bank, from telecom to telecom, and apply for shit. And every time they say, "Oh, 不好意思，因为你是外国人," I just want to slap that passport on the counter and say, 你说什么?
Could you give us few maybe similarities or differences in life in Sweden compared to life in Taiwan?
I think in Sweden we trust in the authorities, right? We trust in the government. Maybe a bit more before than now, but I think that's the reason. One of the reasons Sweden is safe, because there is a certain level of assumption among the citizens that the government, the police, and so on are, on our side, working for us. Taiwan traditionally hasn't really had that trust in the same way. Taiwan doesn't tend to trust as much in the institutions. There's not as many certifications, for example, that you need to have to do things, right? I mean, plumbers and electricians are all set in the same one person, which is really weird. But I think that is actually changing, right? I mean, we look at how the response to this latest earthquake has been. Like, so much that we're just back to normal immediately. Things that have been started to be repaired immediately. I feel like over the 20 years that I have been here, Taiwan, because of how the democracy has developed and so on, there has been an increasing trust in the society, and that we will cooperate, and that we can trust that the government is doing the right thing. So I would actually say that Taiwan has kind of maybe come from behind and kind of caught up with Sweden in many ways in this regard, right? And I think that's where we have seen also Taiwan is such a safe country. I would also say, like in Sweden, like in many countries, for example, you see many more like small little fights and stuff. People get drunk. When they get drunk, they nearly want to fight for fun. You don't see that in Taiwan, right? Very, very seldom when you go out. People tend to be happy drunks or sleepy drunks. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Sweden and many other European countries, you more have the angry drunk who kind of looks at the fighting as part of the entertainment of the evening. So I love Taiwan for the fact that I feel safe here in so many ways. Taiwanese people tend, for the most part, just stay out of each other's lives. All of these stories about people leaving their personal belongings in a taxi, for example, and the taxi driver really going out of their way to get that stuff back to them, right? Wow. I mean, you wouldn't see that in most countries in the world. So I would say Taiwan is becoming, for sure, better and better in these things.
How is it like living in Taiwan as a foreigner?
I lived for 5.5 years in the US. In those 5.5 years, I had to prove my immigration status exactly twice. When I started studying at my university and when I first started at my first job after graduation, then I had to show them that I had a valid visa to be in this country. Other than that, when I walked into buying a car or borrowing money or signing a contract for an apartment house, no one ever asked whether I was American or not. Here in Taiwan, I'm being asked, and you quite often, hear that, 不好意思，因为你是外国人，所以你没有办法 blah, 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 blah. Why should I have to feel my blood pressure going up every time I go to visit a bank? Why should I, every time I want to extend my mobile phone contract, have to fight with them whether they need to see my passport or not, right? No, you don't. Just look at my 2 ID cards like anybody else. Like in the US, everybody has an ID card, which could be a driver's license, or you can go and apply for some other kind of ID card. Then you have a social security card that shows that, how connecting yourself with the overall society. And then if you are an immigrant, you have a INS card that shows you your immigration status. That INS card is only for those very few people that actually needs to know my immigration status. But here in Taiwan, because we have the ARC, APRC, and that's our main ID card, the fact that you are actually not Taiwanese kind of comes up in all of these conversations. It kind of puts a wet blanket on so many conversations, which is unfortunately. So, for example, one of the things I like here is if I go to a doctor and I show them my Genba card, in most cases, this whole thing about foreigners just goes away because they just make an assumption that everything is the same. They know how this card works, they pop it into the machine and they just operate according to those SOPs, right? Mm-hmm. And a few weeks ago I met the lady from Malaysia who said, yeah, but my Genba card it actually says YG on it. It says, basically says I'm a foreigner. It's like, why does it do that? Mine doesn't. I said, I got it when I was a foreign student. So what does that happen there? It says, well, when I come with that card and I show it to a nurse, that nurse sees those words and they start questioning, are the rules the same? Do I need to, is there another procedure that I need to do? Does this person needs to pay extra or not? It just, they get confused. So for whatever reason, who knows why, her card had that. But what it goes to show is that because for whatever reason, her card introduces that otherness on it, that anomaly on it, and it made the nurses and the people at the hospital start questioning if things could possibly just be different for this person. To me, that shows that most likely, if we did not come there and always show off this alien resident card, right? It literally says, you are not from this earth kind of card. and every step of the way when we are going to do things with our phones, with our banks, wherever, we show that card and it just introduces this level of anxiety in there. It's not good for us and it's not good for the people behind the counter.
Is there any other companies that you have?
I started Inspire in 2002, and Inspire is doing quite well. So I have time and I have money. I have invested in quite a few other companies. The company that is taking up most of my time right now is a company called Kigo. So Kigo Mobility makes e-bikes for delivery. So if you think Uber Eats and Food Panda, right, the couriers that are delivering for them, we have for the last 2 years mainly sold in Europe and Africa actually. But we have just signed a Taiwanese distributor, a fleet manager, company called EcoFleet. So they will soon start renting out our delivery e-bikes to couriers in here in Taiwan. And if you compare like a fossil fuel scooter and a e-bike, the e-bike will have less than 2% of the CO2 emissions. And of course the courier will still get a little bit of exercise. They are easier to park, easier, cheaper to repair, right? So over time they will make more money. Uber Eats, for example, has as a goal to be fossil fuel free by 2040. And we definitely want to help them achieve that. I started Inspire in 2002. But 2005, the company was kind of up and running and making money and whatnot. And I felt like I kind of wanted to do something for my community. So I organized an event specifically for what I then referred to as foreign entrepreneurs. Since 2005, I probably organized a few hundred events that has to do with immigrants and entrepreneurship and stuff like that. So if you are an immigrant, you came from another country, you started a company here, or you're running a company here, and you need business advice on your business plan, on your presentation. Maybe you're looking to raise money and you need to figure out how to explain yourself better to other people. Then you can apply for Dragon's Chamber. And you'll spend, if accepted, you'll spend a few months getting advice from experienced entrepreneurs and investors. And they walk out of there with newfound knowledge. They have exposure so that they can meet more investors. And they walk away with a few $100,000 worth of services and products from our sponsors. And perhaps they have met the right investor that will give them the money that they need to grow their business.
Do you have anything else to tell Taiwanese people?
If we compare Taiwan to countries like the US, Canada, UK, the rate of entrepreneurship among immigrants in these countries is way higher than in Taiwan, way higher. In the UK, for example, 14% of all companies are founded by an immigrant. In Taiwan, it's just about impossible to get these statistics. But based on various ways of counting, I've come to the conclusion that the number in Taiwan is less than 1%. What does this mean for Taiwan? It means that you don't have as many people coming from other countries to really invest themselves in Taiwan, to use their creativity, their capability, their connections to build something in Taiwan. I think Taiwan is really losing out here. I mean, think about the US, for example. I always use the example of Yahoo, Nvidia, YouTube. What does these three companies have in common? They were all co-founded or founded by somebody who was born here in Taiwan. And then they moved to the US, immigrated to the US, became American citizens, and they set up these world-changing companies. Mm-hmm. Taiwan is missing out. And what is it that Taiwan perhaps could need more of than anything else? Foreign friends. Well, imagine the fact that every immigrant that moves to Taiwan has family and friends back home. And those family and friends will learn more about Taiwan than I think any diplomatic mission can possibly achieve. So, for both economic and national security reasons, I really think that Taiwan should encourage immigrants, should set the goal of bringing its rate of entrepreneurship among immigrants up to the same level as these other countries. This is somewhere where Taiwan is shooting itself in the foot, especially with low birth rate and so on. Like, with the population cratering, we will need more immigration to be able to keep our social systems functioning. And would you not prefer to have people coming here and that are really investing and bringing resources and connections and creating new things? That would be great, wouldn't it? Overall, I love my life in Taiwan. If I didn't, I would not be here. I have a lovely family. I have, good business. Overall, I feel like I have a fantastic life here. But I'm not one of those, there's some people that says, well, if you don't like it, then leave. Well, I don't subscribe to that, right? I feel like over 24 years here, I've seen so many things getting better and better, including things for immigrants. My argument is that making things better for immigrants will actually be a good thing for Taiwan too, right? Having more people coming here, investing everything they have into Taiwan and building something here, I think we are more likely to see, the next Facebook, the next NVIDIA, the next YouTube actually being, founded in Taiwan, because people who do pack up everything they have and moving to another country, I feel are somewhat predisposed to taking risks and trying new things. Oh, and one more thing. There is a specific phrase in Chinese that I am trying to change. You know the 加油, right? 加油, Taiwan 加油. Well, oil is bad for us. Oil is ruining our planet. So for the last couple of years, I've been kind of campaigning that we should change this to 家电, okay? Because renewable energy and electricity, electric cars, electric e-bikes, right, is the future. So I invite all of you who are watching this video to join me. And from now on, we say, Taiwan 家电!
Taiwan 家电. All right, thank you very much and hope you continue to prosper here in Taiwan.
Thank you.
感谢你们的支持，但是还有很多人还没订阅，请不要忘记订阅、按赞、开启小铃铛，你们的支持是我们的动力，谢谢大家。